year. Now, on the 26th of Adar, naturally we call that in Hebrew, Chavav Adar, it marks the Hilula of a famous Turkish rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yakov Habif Z'tl, one of the famous rabbis of his time. He would become a scribe, I believe, for the Bet Din, had prominent roles within regards to the Jewish court over there. He gave over grandiose sermons, Torah sermons in Izmir. And let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Very much it was. And he came from great rabbinic auspices. I believe his father's name happened to be Harav Nisim Avraham, very great rabbi. He himself was the son, I believe, of another famous rabbi who we've spoken about on various occasions. So, Rab Chanel Chabif, who happened to be a Rosh Yeshiva in his time at Darshan in Izmir during the 1700s, respectively, and was famous for the Torah colossal work called the Migdal Chananel. This was a very, very great book in of its time. So, very much came from a line of awesome rabbis. And I believe his mother passed away in the year Hey Taf Kuf Tzadik Sofit. And I think in Taf Kuf Pei Chet, if I'm not mistaken, his father passed away. It's interesting. I think his sister of his was Astrora. She would get married to Rab Avram Fardo, another great rabbi over there, who we've mentioned about, I believe, before inside this series over here. Now, it's reported over his father-in-law, he was a Khatan of another great rabbi, Rav Rachamim Kalev Even Gabai, who I think he himself passed away in the year Heita Fresh Lamatei, to give precise the Hebrew year in of itself. He would become a scribe for a reported over 30 years inside the Bet Din in of itself, of the famous rabbi of Rav Chaim Pelagi. Now, it's a great rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. He would Rav Chaim Pelagi was probably arguably the most famous Turkish rabbi in of his time, and Rav Chaim Pelagi was, let's just say, also famous posek, Kabbalist, and a Parshan, part of the golden age of the Turkish era, respectively. And I think they were close friends, and very much had close connections. Actually, I think he quotes him inside one of the books, at least, possibly maybe several of them in of itself. That's also interesting. So, and he actually quotes him on various occasions. Now, he would leave over, I believe, if I'm mistaken, his son will be Rav Chanan Menachem Avram, and I think his daughter would get married to Rav Nisim Yitzchak Even Gabai, as we stated before, that would actually deal with in regards to printing and printing works of his father-in-law. I believe it's reported over. Now, it's actually interesting. He would go on to live a long life. It's reported over. He was over 80 years of age, even when he printed his book. And suddenly, I think he suffered from illness in his last times periods in of itself and passed away on the 26th of Adar. I believe it was in English year 1881 when he passed away. We're talking about at this time of recording, approximately nearly 145 years ago here from the time of recording. He's very, very much a great rabbi of his time. And I believe Rabbi Yosef Pelagi would actually deliver a eulogy, a hesped, at the time of his funeral, at the time of his levaya. Now let's explore some of the great books of the great Chacham's life over here, because he wrote a lot of Torah colossal works. Chacham Yaakov did. Okay, so let's explore some of them over here, including the Vayechi Yaakov. What was this? This was printed in Izmir in the Tafresh Lamed Chet. It was Drushim, let's say, on the book of Bereshit, on the Sefer Bereshit, on the order of it in of itself, really encompassing about creation in of itself, on those specific topics, which I recommend everyone to actually look into this on the book of Genesis in of itself. That I think it was concentrating on various eulogies and weddings and Shabbat in of itself, various matters pertaining to Shabbat in of itself. I believe he would write a commentary on the 5 books of Moses, the remaining ones also, but I'm not sure if that actually got printed at the end. And many of his books were actually called by his name, interesting enough, because obviously there's various connotations why that would be done over here. And he would get various haskamot, I believe, including from the chief rabbi of Izmir and Agitha, very naturally. Now it's reported over, he had a close connection also with the famous Rabbi Abraham Pelagi from the rabbinic dynasty of the Pelagi family. I believe he himself happened to be the son of Rav Chaim Pelagi, and the elder son, to be precise, and was a rabbi of the city of Izmir, respectively. So there's a lot actually related over within regards to famous, because he very much was a famous rabbi of his time. Rabbi Yakov Habif, which is a let's just say, a very, very common name back in that specific area in of itself. Let's explore some more of the family line also. So I believe he was buried in Turkey. That's another thing. We stated before that his father's name was Rav Nisim Avraham, and he would have sons, including Rav Abraham and Rav Hananel Menachem, as we stated before. His sister, as we stated before, was Rabbanit Astrola, who become married, as we stated before, to Rav Abraham Pardo. His grandfather, I believe, from his father's side, was Rav Hananel, who happened to be the author of the Migdal Hananel, which we mentioned about at the start of the video, and his teacher was a famous author of Nefesh Chaim, the most famous Rav Chaim Pelagi, who we've spoken about on many occasions before. So it's Sisi Lula over here of the famous rabbi that would serve as part of the Bet Din, the Jewish court in Turkey, for 30 years. It's reported over he would also do various different penances and fasts, taniyot, as we call it in the Hebrew, throughout these specific years in of itself. Was dwell in for many, many dozens of hours, if I'm not mistaken. And much, much, much more can be related about the great rabbi's life. I would recommend everyone to look into it. And it's interesting, he would even make a living with various different workings he did. But at that point in time, I think there wasn't, obviously, a lot of people struggled financially over there. And I believe with some of his earnings, any earnings he had from his livelihood, he would use it to publish his various different Torah innovations. So he passed away, as we stated before, approximately just over 150 years ago, I think it was. It was about 145 years ago here from the time of recording. And that's interesting. His book, the Rabbi Yakov, had about 225 pages. I believe it was printed in the year 1878. So that would have been about approximately maybe more than 30 years after the great rabbi passed away. It was actually published in Izmir. It was, as we said before, sermons on the weekly Torah law, various different dinim on it, rashot, for Shabbat, respectively. So please, everyone, don't forget to light candles in his memory, the 26th of Adar. We're a community. Friends, we're learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. If you're related to any of the great chachamim we are speaking about, please send an email now. We would love to hear more. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, subscribe to the channel now. And if you feel anyone is interested in watching any of these videos, please share the videos to other people also respectively, so that they can join and benefit from the great Torah content we've got on the great, especially on the great Oriental Rabbanim. Now, friends, already in this series, we've covered about approximately 850 great Chachamim from the Oriental and Spanish countries. We've maybe concentrated on at least 100 rabbis that had key roles or positions at one stage in time in Turkey, in the various different cities, famous cities, which I would recommend everyone to look into. So wishing you all a great day and Shabbat Shalom, because we're recording this just before Shabbat Parshat Pekudei. So wishing you all blessings from Israel.